the method of growing plants indoors without using any soil. Well, it's actually not a new method. This was invented in 1937 by William Frederick Jerick. Well, to talk more about that is an hydroponist, a soilless farmer, so to say, Emmanuel Onwi, and yes, he's joining us via Zoom. Good morning, Emmanuel. Like I said, this method is not new. It started as far back as 1937, but it's still unpopular. I mean, how we want to explain to traditional farmers that their legumes, their vegetables, tomatoes can be grown effectively without using soil. But can you take us through that process shortly?
Okay. Let me put it as I would do to a layman. And okay, let me give instance. If I cook and then I give you in a plate, I give someone else in a leaf, like the normal call moi thing, it's just medium that is different. Nothing changes in the food. So likewise, soil, no soil. The main thing is that what the plant wants to eat must be held by any medium in water. So if you can find an alternative and then give to the plant, of course, the plant is able to absorb it that way.
Okay, but Emmanuel, how come this is not popular? Some say hydroponics is very, very expensive and, well, not affordable for farmers in Nigeria.
Okay. I will give an instance first. We are training farmers now, even the locals now, and we train them in clusters. Of course, when there's a new thing in civilization, we always have three categories of people. Most often, we have the early adopters, we have the late adopters, and then
Emmanuel,
we have the laggers.
Emmanuel, I beg your pardon, please. You might need to hold your thoughts. Let's go on this short break. We'll be back. You're watching New Dawn on Ogtv television, and we're talking about soilless farming, and our guest is Emmanuel Onwi, a hydroponist. And yes, he talked about the process succinctly, and before we went on that short break, he was telling us yes, how expensive or how come this method is not so popular among farmers in Nigeria. So Emmanuel, yes, continue with that. Is it too expensive?
For a large scale, yes, it is. But when you compare it to the economic value, what will turn out, it's actually going to worth it. It's just like a real estate in agriculture. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say here.
Okay, now let's look at the fact that the traditional, we are used to the traditional clearing of land and all of that, and then you look at the roots. You want to, can you successfully do virtually everything you are doing on land with soilless farming?
All right. Like I said, think about 3 weeks ago, I was hosting a space too, and then a question like this too was asked, and I told them plainly that the truth is we can grow almost everything, but not everything is of economic value. In terms of your naira and your kobo now, you don't want to spend 1,000 naira to cultivate something that at the end of the day when you sell, you are selling for 10 naira. Okay. And that is one. You don't want to do that. Then, secondly, on the housing structure, there is always a size for every budget. If you have, let's say, 500,000, you want to go into hydroponics, there is a plan for that budget.
Okay, but will you still get the same results for it? And then are there specific crops or items that could go with soilless farming? For example, are they just the major type of, are there specific crops that will go, or specific things that will go with soilless farming? For example, okay, can you do your yam? Can you do yam on soilless farming? Can you, what are the things that
plants,
crops that will go with soilless farming and do it effortlessly?
Effortlessly, you can do tuber crops, but that will be aeroponics, and then you can majorly it's known for the veggies. When it comes to tree crops, that is where you don't want to do hydroponics for it, because your first beyond aesthetics, your first mission is to make profits as a businessman.
Okay.
Okay. Well, yeah. Emmanuel, how do you maneuver or handle waterborne diseases?
Okay. Definitely. Whatsoever, first is that it's an housing system, and when it comes to rain, you can control the amount of droplets that come, either little or no. And then you are feeding them from a tank, and that is the advantage. And that is what makes you to be able to grow all year round, in spite of whether there is rainfall, whether there is ill distribution of rainfall, or whether there is a drought season. So everything comes from your tank. If you can keep your tank clean, you have successfully managed waterborne diseases.
Okay. Now you were talking about the fact that the oaks, the bigger, you can't use them. Is it by constraint of funds, or is it the workability or practicability of, can you, for example, put an Iroko and an acorn? Can you put it on soilless farming? Are there no restrictions to the type of crops that could go with soilless farming, or is it just that you could go to any length as long as you have the funds?
Okay. First is the practicability, and secondly is that it won't be profitable if you want to grow trees with soilless farming.
Okay. But can you grow trees on soilless farming?
Yes, you can. Especially because now new varieties have come up where they trap plants. So with those ones, of course, you can.
Okay. But what about vulnerability to power outages? Because I know plants need light. So in hydroponics, you make use of electricity. So how do you handle that?
Okay. There's what we call the asset-based community development thingy. In that case, you use what is available to get what you want. So, for example, now, in a screen house system, not a greenhouse now, a screen house, you use light from the sun sunlight. So it's still the same process for the photosynthesis. But then the thing is, you control more other factors. You use nets and then you use a screen on top. So you are not, it's in indoor farming that we want to use light, or in a different kind of system. I don't want to go deep into that. But outside that, this greenhouse system, you don't need to power with electricity because it's not a greenhouse. All you just need to do is that you create that housing structure such that you can limit the number of insects coming in, or pests. And that is why we always say that you use zero or no pesticides. So as for lighting, you use sunlight there, and then you are good to go.
Okay, now bring us up to speed about the advantages soilless farming has over the traditional way of farming.
Okay. First, I would want to say, when you look at the buildings in Lagos, very tall, the first reason why they build them in stories is not just because of the aesthetic purposes, no. First is that the owners of those lands want to utilize and want to manage that land. So they want it to occupy as many buildings or rooms. So in hydroponics, there's what we call the vertical system. Where what I can achieve on 6 plots of land, I can achieve it on 1 plot of land simply because I'm growing it in layers. So
okay, so that means you could do your planting on layers
yes.
when it comes to soilless farming?
Yes.
But how about the stem, the height?
No, of course, that is the physiological characteristics of it. The way the layers are spaced is already predetermined by the height of the plant that is to be grown.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what about profitability or marketability of the produce? You know, how profitable is this? You know, we've established, or well, you might not agree that it's expensive to set up, but you also need lights, proper monitoring, maintenance, and all that. So when you look at all these costs, so how profitable is soilless farming?
And let me also add to that, you know, how has the reaction been? You know, when poundo yam came, some people will tell you that you are not eating yam, you are not eating pounded yam, that, you know, the one that is pounded is the one that is on the mortar and the pestle, you know. So how's the reaction, you know, for example, between when you take soilless crops, you know, to the market, you know, how has it been received?
Okay. Let me start with this first. That okay, I did even recently. I did another survey in the East, and then one thing that one of the market women said first was that I know of this species, but I doubt if they will quickly accept it. So first was I had that issue with acceptability. She was like, my people are used to this one that comes from the north, this and this that always look like this. So I have to first of all educate her first that, okay, the idea is this, I will give you to try. If I have to give her, okay, check it out. Because this tomato can stay 2 weeks on your shelf without any preservative. So it will even give you more profitability, because once you buy maybe somewhere else, might just maybe 3 days and then they've split open. And the truth is this, throughout like for the past 4 months, I've been selling tomato for 600 naira a kg, and a paint is averaging about 3 kg. And in the market, that paint is presently cost about 2,008. And for 3 kg, that is, I'm saying about 182,000. So you can imagine. And let me give you the reason why I can sell it at that. The main reason why prices fluctuate is because of weather. That's why you say that I don't need dry season. No, there's no rainfall. Things will be expensive. This and this. But because I work independent of weather and keep my prices stable for that long.
Okay.
So, and in fact, recently now, now I moved to the east not long ago. Now, presently, in fact, most people that have bought from me, they always prefer to buy. In fact, now I can't even meet the demand. Because by the time they look at it, it might not be so profitable maybe for the market women, because they would always maybe want to buy to make maybe times two. But for the final consumer, by the time they take it with what is in the market, it's always by far better. Because if you look at, okay, I buy this, it can stay this long, and then it's okay. And I buy this, and then after maybe 3 days, I have to choose with it. I think I'll go with it, since they are all almost the same price, if not the same.
Yeah, but if you say it is going to stay that long, are there preservatives? Are you using preservatives, or is it just by virtue of the fact that it was done on soilless farming? Because the one that is on the shelf, the one that's on the ground, is supposed to be natural, you know, and yours now is staying longer than the one that's supposed to be natural. Are there additives? Are there things that you put in to make yours stay longer?
Okay, there are no preservatives. It's just good agricultural practices. Now, it's called agricultural science, not just agriculture. You should apply a science to it. That's why it's called agricultural science. So there are no preservatives at all. What we just did was that the nutrients we gave them is to ensure that their cell wall or cell membrane, or whatever you want to call it, that is just like, for example, now, if you want to produce egg from chicken and you want it to have a hard shell, so it will not just break, what we usually tell you that give your fowl enough calcium. Okay. So when egg comes out, it will not break easily. That's it.
Okay.
And that is just good agricultural practices.
Okay.
Well, Emmanuel, it appears soilless farming is not as stressful or rigorous as traditional farming, where you have to look for a space, clear the land, and after planting, weeding is also could be problematic at times. But how much of a training does one need to start with?
Okay. It's not, we all know that practice don't just make perfection, it makes for improvement. Okay. So if somebody has any fundamental knowledge on agriculture, for a head start, if you have someone that you can learn properly under, after 6 months you'll be able to do very, very basic things by yourself.
Okay. So the process is not that laborious. It could easily be
no, it's not rocket science.
Okay, what are your last words now as we begin to bring this segment to a close? What are your suggestions? What are your thoughts? What are the prospects, that you see for soilless farming? Do you see a future? Do you see more people embracing it? And what are your own expectations and thoughts?
All right. First, I want to say first that we should first see agriculture as not just a means or an end, but as a tool. If I should take maybe my phone now and I'm trying to drive a nail into a wood, am I going to complain, this phone is not good, it's not even pushing this nail? That's not the issue. The issue is that I'm using a wrong tool for that job. Mm-hmm. So we must see agriculture as a tool first. And in that tool, it would do 3 things. Number 1 is to ensure food security. Number 2 is for income generation. And number 3 is to create jobs. Yes, in the future, hydroponics will still be embraced. Why? Because when civilization comes to a society, the first victim are always the farms. They'll push the farms inside. But with hydroponics makes the farms habitable for the city. It makes it not to be a misfit for being in the city. And secondly, our largest population, of course, are the youths. So it makes youths more interested in what? In farming. At least which youth would say no to an hydroponics farm. In fact, you won't be proud to say I'm a farmer.
Okay, well, many thanks, Emmanuel Onwi, hydroponist. Thanks for joining us via Zoom. Let's allow you to go back to the farm. Well, that's how far we can go on the show this morning. Many thanks for watching. I think it's been quite educative, it's been quite informative from a lot from the security kind of arms proliferation to agriculture, and now it's time to say bye-bye on the show. Tunji, we have to go.
All right, well, every good thing they say must come to an end, and we've come to the end of the Wednesday edition of New Dawn.